It was 2 a.m. when I heard the knock. Slow, heavy, deliberate. At first I thought it was a dream. My street was always quiet at night, and no one had any reason to visit me at that hour. But then it came again, 3 loud knocks that echoed through my empty house. My heart pounded. Who would be at my door at this time? I checked my phone, no messages, no calls. I told myself to ignore it, but something deep inside whispered that I needed to check. So against every instinct screaming don't, I walked to the door, my bare feet cold on the wooden floor. I unlocked it, opened it slowly and looked outside. There was no one there. Just darkness. Silent, empty street. I almost closed the door until I heard it. A whisper. Right behind me. Thank you. That was the moment I realized I should have never answered that door. It was a cold night, and Daniel was sleeping peacefully in his small house. Suddenly he woke up to a strange sound. Knock. 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 Someone was at the door. He looked at the clock on his phone. It was 2 a.m. Who could be knocking at this time? His street was always quiet at night. Daniel sat up in bed, thinking maybe he was dreaming. But the knock came again, slow and loud. He felt a little scared, but also curious. He got out of bed and walked to the door. The house was silent, and he could hear his own heartbeat. He checked his phone, no messages, no missed calls. Daniel slowly unlocked the door and opened it. The cold night air touched his face. He looked outside. The street was empty. There was no one there. He stepped forward a little and looked around, still nothing. He was confused and turned back to go inside. But then he heard something behind him. A soft whisper, very close to his ear. Thank you. Daniel froze. His blood turned cold. He slowly turned around, but there was no one there. Daniel woke up to the sound of knocking. Knock, knock, knock. It was soft but clear. He looked at his phone, 2 a.m. He got out of bed, feeling uneasy, and walked to the door. When he opened it, his heart skipped a beat. A little girl was standing there. She looked about 8 years old, wearing a white dress that was completely wet. Her long hair was sticking to her face, and she was barefoot. Rain was falling lightly outside, and she was shivering. The girl looked up at him with big, dark eyes and said in a weak voice, "Can I come in? It's cold." Daniel felt sorry for her. She looked lost and scared. Without thinking much, he let her inside. He closed the door and told her to sit on the couch. Then he went to the kitchen to get her a towel and some warm tea. But when he came back to the living room, the girl was gone. The couch was empty. The front door was still locked. Daniel felt his stomach twist. He searched the room, nothing. Then he heard it. A voice from the dark hallway, soft and chilling. "Thank you for letting me in." Daniel slowly turned toward the sound. There was no one there, but muddy footprints were leading up the stairs. Daniel was half asleep when he heard the sound of knocking. Knock, knock, knock. It was 2 a.m. He didn't want to get up, but the sound didn't stop. Finally, he went to the door. When he opened it, there was no person. only a small wooden box sitting on his doorstep. The box looked old, and his name was written on it in black ink. Daniel felt confused. He didn't order anything. He looked around, but the street was empty. No cars, no people. Just silence. He picked up the box and brought it inside. It felt heavy. He placed it on the table and slowly opened the lid. Inside were old keys and a small piece of paper. The paper had just 2 words written on it. For tonight. Daniel stared at the note, feeling cold fear crawl up his spine. He didn't understand what it meant. Suddenly the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then everything went dark for a second before coming back on. Before Daniel could react, he heard another knock on the door. But this time it was louder. Bang, bang, bang. He walked to the door slowly, his hands shaking, and looked through the peephole. His heart nearly stopped. Someone was standing there. Someone wearing his clothes. Someone who looked exactly like him. Same face, same hair, same expression. And that person was smiling. Earlier that evening, Daniel saw his old neighbor, Mr. Harris, outside. The man looked worried and tired. He called out to Daniel and said something strange. "If you hear a knock late at night, do not open the door. Promise me." Daniel laughed nervously and asked why, but the neighbor didn't explain. He just repeated, "No matter what you hear, don't open it." Hours later, at exactly 2 a.m., Daniel woke up to a slow knock. Knock, knock, knock. His body froze. He remembered the warning. He tried to ignore it, but the knock came again, louder, heavier, like someone desperate. Bang, bang, bang. Daniel's hands were shaking. He picked up his phone and texted his neighbor. "Someone is at my door. What do I do?" No reply. Then the sound changed. The knocks turned into scratching, like sharp nails dragging across the wood. Esirr, esirr. Finally, Daniel couldn't take it anymore. His fear turned into anger. He ran to the door and flung it open. His scream caught in his throat. Lying on his doorstep was his neighbor, Mr. Harris, dead. His eyes were wide open in terror, his mouth frozen in a silent scream. Daniel stepped back in shock, and that's when he heard it, a deep, cold whisper from the darkness. "Wrong door." The knock was soft at first. Knock, knock. Daniel woke up and checked the time. 2 a.m. He frowned. Who could be knocking at this hour? He got out of bed, walked to the door, and opened it slowly. A tall man dressed in black was standing there. His face was pale, and his head was tilted to one side like he was studying Daniel. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. He tried to speak. Can I help you?" The man said nothing. He just stood there, silent, staring. Then slowly he raised his arm and pointed inside the house. Daniel's hands shook. I think you have the wrong house," he whispered. The man didn't move, didn't blink. Daniel slammed the door shut and locked it. His heart was racing. He grabbed his phone and called 911. 911, what's your emergency?" the operator asked. "There's a man at my door. He's just standing there, not saying anything. Daniel whispered. The operator replied calmly, "Stay inside. We are sending someone. Whatever you do, do not open the door again." Daniel stayed near the door, shaking, listening. It was quiet for a moment. Then the knock came again. Knock, knock. But this time, the sound wasn't coming from the front door. It was coming from inside the house. The knocking sound woke Daniel from a deep sleep. Knock, knock, knock. He groaned, looked at the clock. 2 a.m. He dragged himself to the door and opened it. For a moment he couldn't breathe. Standing there was Alex, his best friend from childhood. The same Alex who had died 10 years ago in a car accident. Alex looked exactly the same as the last time Daniel saw him. Same jeans, same red hoodie, same smile. Not a single sign of age. "Hey, Danny," Alex said softly, just like old times. "It's been so long." Daniel's heart pounded. His mouth felt dry. You're dead," he whispered. Alex tilted his head and smiled wider. "Can I come in? I'm cold." Daniel backed away, shaking. "This isn't real. You're not real." But Alex stepped inside without waiting for an answer. The lights in the house flickered once, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. Daniel stood frozen, his breathing loud in the silence. Then he heard it, Alex's voice, whispering in the dark, right next to his ear. "You left me there. Now it's your turn." Daniel woke up to the sound of knocking. Knock, knock, knock. It was 2 a.m. He opened the door, but there was no one there. The street was empty and silent. He closed the door and went back to bed. But then it started again. Knock, knock, knock. Daniel ran to the door, opened it fast, still no one. This time he locked the door, pushed a chair against it, and sat down waiting. The house was quiet for a moment. Then the knocking started again. But not on the door. It was coming from the window. Daniel froze. Slowly he turned toward the sound. A shadow moved outside the glass. He ran to the window and pulled the curtain open. Nothing. Just darkness. The knocking began again, louder this time, now from the walls. Then the ceiling. Then the floor. Daniel clutched his head. The sound was everywhere, like the house itself was knocking. Finally, the knocking stopped. Silence. Daniel took a deep breath and opened the front door to run outside. But when he stepped out, his heart stopped. His house was standing empty in the middle of the street. The door was wide open, and inside the dark doorway stood a shadow, tall and thin, slowly raising its hand to wave at him.